Let me ask you something. When was the last time you woke up, feeling excited about your life and not just getting through the day, or waiting for the weekend? I mean truly alive, focused, and unstoppable. If you can't remember, then listen up, because that's not just a bad phase. That's a warning sign that you're letting life pass you by. Maybe you feel stuck, like you're trapped in a loop, waking up to the same problems, same stress, same disappointment. You want change, but no matter how many times you try, it feels like you're sinking deeper. You tell yourself, maybe next month, maybe next year, but deep down you're terrified that nothing will ever change. I get it. I've been there, and so have millions of others. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. This is not how your story ends. In fact, this moment right here, right now, could be the most important wake-up call of your life. Because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to break free, take back control, and rebuild yourself from the ground up, no matter how lost or broken you feel right now. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you woke up feeling excited about your life? I'm not talking about those fleeting moments when things randomly go your way. I mean truly excited, like you had a purpose, a mission, a fire inside you that made you want to jump out of bed and chase something. If it's been a while, you're not alone. Most people go through life feeling stuck, lost, or just existing instead of living. And if that's where you are right now, you might be wondering why. Why can't I just get myself to move forward? I'll tell you why. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're not capable. It's because your mind has tricked you into believing that change isn't possible. This isn't just some random feeling. It's a real psychological phenomenon called learned helplessness. Scientists discovered this in a famous study with dogs. They put dogs in a cage with an electric floor but no way to escape. At first, the dogs tried to get out. They scratched, jumped, did everything they could, but after multiple failed attempts, they stopped trying. Here's the scary part. Even when the scientists opened the cage, most of the dogs didn't even try to leave. They had been conditioned to believe that no matter what they did, they couldn't change their situation. Now let me ask you, isn't that exactly what happens to us in life? We try to start that business, we fail, we try to get in shape, we give up after a few weeks, we try to fix our relationships, it falls apart anyway, and so, without realizing it, we start accepting our situation instead of fighting to change it. We tell ourselves, maybe this is just how life is, maybe I'm just not meant for more, maybe this is as good as it gets. But listen to me right now, that is a lie. Your past failures do not define your future success. Just because something didn't work before doesn't mean it won't work now. But if you keep believing that nothing will change, you'll stop trying, just like those dogs in the cage. You are not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because your brain has been trained to fear failure more than it desires success. And here's the worst part. The longer you stay in this cycle, the stronger the cage becomes. Not because it's real, but because you believe in it. Think about an elephant in captivity. When it's a baby, they tie its leg to a small stake in the ground. At first it fights, it pulls, it tries to break free, but after enough failed attempts, it gives up. Now here's what's crazy. That same elephant grows into a massive, powerful creature, strong enough to rip trees from the ground, but it never tries to escape. Why? Because in its mind, it's still that weak baby elephant that couldn't break free. And that's exactly what's happening to you. You've convinced yourself that you're still that person who failed before, got rejected before, struggled before, so you don't even try to fight anymore. But the reality is, you're not that person anymore. You're stronger, wiser, more experienced, but none of that matters unless you realize it. So here's what I need you to do right now, in this moment. I need you to recognize that the cage you think you're trapped in isn't real. You're not stuck. You're not powerless. The only thing keeping you in this cycle is the belief that you can't break out of it. So today, I want you to start challenging that belief. I want you to look at your life and ask yourself, what if I tried again? What if I took one step forward today? What if I just refused to give up this time? Because once you stop accepting the cage, you'll finally see the open door in front of you. The only question is, are you going to walk through it? Let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting? Waiting for the right moment, waiting for motivation, waiting for life to magically fix itself. Let's be real. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or next week, I'll get serious, or one day things will change, and yet, here you are, still stuck. Listen to me. If you don't wake up and take control of your life, no one else will. No one is going to knock on your door and hand you a fresh start. No one is going to drag you out of bed and force you to chase your dreams. No one is coming to save you. And that's not meant to scare you, that's meant to empower you. Because the second you stop waiting for someone to fix your life, you realize that you have the power to fix it yourself. Look around, think about all the people you know who are unhappy, stuck in jobs they hate, stuck in toxic relationships, stuck in bad habits. Now, how many of them are actually doing something about it? Most people don't move. They complain, they blame, they make excuses, and then they wake up one day, 10 years later, still stuck in the same place. You have two choices right now, two possible futures. In one future, you keep doing what you've always done. You keep making excuses, you keep scrolling, distracting yourself, putting things off for later. And in 5 years, you're in the same spot or worse. You look in the mirror and see a version of yourself that's tired, disappointed, frustrated, and then the regret kicks in. The why didn't I start sooner? The I wish I had taken action back then. That's one future. But there's another. In the second future, you wake up today and say, enough. You stop waiting, you stop making excuses, and even though it's hard, you start moving. At first it's slow, it's uncomfortable, yeah, but little by little you gain momentum, and in 5 years you look in the mirror and see someone who fought for their life back, someone who didn't give up, someone who became unstoppable. So let me ask you again, which future do you want? Imagine life is a river. The current is always pulling you either toward growth or toward regret. If you stop paddling, if you stay still doing nothing, you don't just stay where you are. You start drifting backward. Every day you stay stuck, you're being pulled further and further away from the life you could have had. But if you grab the paddle and start rowing, even if it's slow at first, even if it's exhausting, you can start moving in the direction you actually want to go. The question is, are you going to pick up the paddle, or are you going to let the current take you wherever it wants? The choice is yours. This is your wake-up call. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, not someday. Now. Because if you don't move now, you probably never will, and I promise you, your future self is watching. They're looking back at this exact moment and they're either saying thank you for waking up, or they're whispering, why didn't you start sooner? So what's it going to be? Let me be real with you. Nothing in your life will change until you decide to own it. I know that's hard to hear because right now, it might feel like the world did you dirty. Maybe someone betrayed you. Maybe life threw obstacles in your way that weren't your fault. Maybe you grew up in a tough environment surrounded by negativity or never had the right support system, and you're probably thinking, how is this my responsibility? I didn't ask for this. But here's the truth. Blame is a prison, and every time you point the finger at someone or something else, you hand over the keys to your life. Most people never rebuild their life because they fall into the blame trap. A cycle of excuses that sound something like this. I can't get in shape because I have bad genetics. I can't start my dream career because I wasn't born into the right connections. I can't be successful because my past is too messy. Sound familiar? I get it because I've been there too. And it's so easy to believe these things because if it's someone else's fault, then we don't have to do anything about it. It gives us permission to stay in the same place. But here's what successful people understand. Your life is 100% your responsibility, even when things aren't your fault. And that's a powerful shift because the moment you take full ownership, you take back control. Look at David Goggins. If anyone had an excuse to blame life, it was him. He grew up in an abusive home, he was bullied, overweight, and barely graduated high school. He worked dead-end jobs and felt stuck in a cycle of failure. For years he played the victim. He told himself he'd never escape his circumstances, and for years, nothing changed. But then one day, he made a decision. No more blaming, no more excuses. He took radical ownership of his life, his body, his mind, his failures. He stopped waiting for someone to rescue him and decided to become his own hero. And that's when everything shifted. He lost over 100 pounds in 3 months, became a Navy SEAL, and is now known as the toughest man alive. Did his past change? No. Did life suddenly become fair? No. But the moment he took ownership, his future changed forever. And you have that same power. Look, I know it's easier to wait, to hope someone else will come fix things, to wish that life had been different. But let me tell you something powerful. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your friends, not society. It's on you. And that's the best news ever because that means you have the power to change everything. So make the decision today. Take radical ownership. Stop blaming. Take back your life. Because 5 years from now, your future self is going to ask you one question. Why didn't you start sooner? And the only thing stopping you from saying I did is you. You know what the biggest lie in self-improvement is? That you need to feel motivated to take action. That's the trap that keeps so many people stuck. They sit around waiting for motivation to strike, like it's some magical force that'll suddenly make everything easy, but let's be real. How often does that happen? Think about the last time you said, I'll start tomorrow, or I just don't feel like it today. How did that turn out? Chances are, tomorrow never came. Or when it did, you still didn't feel like it. That's because motivation is like a spark. It burns hot for a moment, and then fades just as fast. And that's exactly why you can't rely on it. Let's talk about the science behind this. There's something called the motivation wave, a concept developed by B.J. Fogg, a behavior scientist at Stanford. Here's how it works. Motivation comes in waves. It spikes when you're excited about change, but then it crashes when things get tough, boring, or inconvenient. That's why people start workouts on January 1st, but quit by February. That's why someone gets fired up about a business idea, but never follows through. Because they were depending on motivation instead of discipline. Motivation is an emotion, and like any emotion, it fluctuates. Some days you feel it, some days you don't. But discipline, that's a system, that's a habit. That's something you control. Let me ask you this. Do you think Navy SEALs wake up at 4 a.m. because they feel like it? Do you think Olympic athletes train every day because they're constantly motivated? No. They do it because they've built systems of discipline that don't rely on how they feel in the moment. And here's the truth. You don't need motivation to start. You need action. And action creates momentum. Think of it like pushing a car. The hardest part is getting it to move from a standstill. That first push takes all your strength, but once the wheels start rolling, it gets easier. It builds momentum, and suddenly you don't have to push as hard. That's how discipline works. You push yourself to take action first, even when you don't feel like it. And once you do, the action itself generates motivation. Now, I'm not telling you to wake up tomorrow and suddenly transform into a Navy SEAL. That's not how this works. What you need is small daily wins that prove to your brain, I am in control. Here's how you do it. Use the 1-minute rule. The 1-minute rule is simple. If something takes less than 60 seconds, do it immediately. Feel lazy? Just stand up. Literally, just stand up. That's the first action. Want to start working out? Just do 1 push-up. That's it, just 1. Want to start writing? Just type 1 sentence. Sounds too easy, right? But here's the trick. Once you start, you almost always keep going. This works because of something called the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological principle that says our brains hate unfinished tasks. That's why starting is always the hardest part. But once you begin, your brain naturally wants to continue. So don't set a huge goal like, I'll work out for an hour every day. Just say, I'll do 1 push-up. Because that 1 push-up turns into 5, then 10, then a full workout. Your future self isn't built by big dramatic moments, it's built by tiny decisions repeated daily. So don't wait for motivation. Build discipline and start right now. Listen, you've made it this far, and that tells me something important. You're ready. But the truth is, it doesn't matter how many motivational videos you watch, how much you understand, or how badly you want to change. Nothing happens unless you take action. So here's my challenge to you. Do something today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. 1 small step. That's all it takes to break the cycle, to start the shift, to prove to yourself that change isn't some distant dream. It's a decision. Maybe that step is waking up an hour earlier. Maybe it's finally signing up for that gym membership. Maybe it's sending that email you've been avoiding, picking up that book, or making a list of goals you've been too afraid to admit out loud. Whatever it is, just do it right now, because the longer you wait, the deeper you sink. You don't have time to wait for motivation. Action creates motivation. Now I want you to picture something. Imagine it's 5 years from now. You wake up, look around, and realize nothing has changed. You're still stuck, still waiting, still making the same excuses. And worst of all, you know deep down that it could have been different. Because 5 years ago today you had a choice. You could have woken up, you could have rebuilt. But instead, you let another day slip away. How does that feel? Now let's flip that. Imagine waking up 5 years from now and feeling proud. Because when things got tough, when life hit hard, you didn't stay down. You didn't wait for the perfect moment. You created it. Your future self is watching you right now. Will they thank you? Or will they regret the choices you made today? You have a fire inside you, I know it, you know it, but only you can decide whether you let it burn out or use it to rebuild your life. So stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for someone to save you, because no one is coming. You are your own rescue mission, and it starts right here, right now. Wake up, rebuild, and make today the day everything changes. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one thing you're committing to change today? Because this isn't just about watching videos, it's about leveling up your life. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video, because I promise you, this is just the beginning. Now get up, get moving, and make it happen.